She sat in his chair, like it was hers. I froze. That one gesture cracked something in me, raw and immediate. I never meant for any of this to feel like a confession. I never meant to cross certain lines. But here we are. It happened late one Thursday evening, after everyone else had left the office. The building's air conditioning hummed low, the lighting softened. I was packing my laptop into its bag when she walked in. Unexpected, quiet, footfalls almost soundless on the polished floor. She paused at the doorway, fingers curled around the frame. Then she slid into his chair. Not across from me, not at a guest seat. She sat in his seat, that broad-backed leather swivel chair he claimed as his domain, as though she owned it. I looked up, startled. My chest tightened. Her eyes met mine, soft, dangerous, familiar in a way I couldn't place at first. My heart throbbed. Something between us, a memory, an unspoken agreement, sparked. The details are blurry now, but the tension, the electricity, that moment of recognition, is permanent. I swallowed, tried to speak, but words tangled on my tongue. The silence stretched. The chair creaked beneath her. Her hair brushed the collar of her blouse, a whisper of movement. Her leg crossed, slow, deliberate. She leaned forward slightly, elbows on her knees. Her gaze stayed on me. There was something bold and knowing in her posture, as if she had done this before, as if she had expected me to react. Why was she here? I wondered. Who told her I'd be alone? There was something charged in the air, something unsaid. I watched the way her collarbone glanced in the light, the curve of her neck as she turned her head. My breath caught. I felt an old tension coil inside me, the kind you suppress until it becomes a ghost at the edges of your thoughts. My mind scrambled for explanations. Office politics? An errand? A meeting? I wanted to ask, but the question felt too loud, too crude. Better to wait for her to speak. The hum of the AC filled the silence. My fingers brushed the strap of my bag. The laptop slid slightly. My pulse pounded in my ears. She stayed still, poised. Her lips parted, though she didn't immediately speak. The moment felt suspended, like she was waiting for permission or daring me to challenge her. The air thickened between us. I could feel the heat of her presence, the gravity of something undisclosed dragging us closer. Then she exhaled softly, as though she were letting go of something or pulling something in. She spoke, low and firm. "You didn't expect me tonight." And just like that, just as the tension was unbearable, she smiled, faint and knowing, and leaned back, reclaiming space. Her hand brushed against the armrest. The chair responded to her weight as though it recognized her. My skin tingled. I was trapped in that instance-long moment. The lights flicked in the hallway. A distant footstep. Someone might walk in. I looked at the door at her. I wanted to stand, to retreat, to demand clarity. Instead, I stayed planted, a spectator to my own unraveling. She tilted her head, eyelashes low, waiting. In that silence I realized nothing between us had ever been resolved. And now she was here, again, with the power to disrupt. I wanted to speak, to push her out, to insist on boundaries. But I found myself leaning forward, drawn in, curiosity and desire knotting together. I swallowed. My voice came out softer than I intended. "What are you doing here?" Her eyes flickered, luminous in that near darkness. "I needed to see you." And with those words, the last barrier between us cracked. The night pulsed, waiting for what would come next. And I swear, in that heartbeat, I knew everything was about to change. The first few moments felt like a trap I walked into willingly. She remained in his chair, legs crossed, arms relaxed on the armrests, eyes steady on me. I closed the distance slowly, step by careful step, as though each step might shatter the illusion. The carpeting muffled my approach. The office smelled faintly of old paper, coffee, polished wood. That familiar scent, between her and the room, felt like a tether. I set my bag down, heart hammering. My fingers trembled slightly. I cleared my throat. You couldn't just barge in." My voice cracked, betraying the tension. She tilted her head, a half-smile playing at the corner of her lips. "Why not?" she said softly. No accusation, only curiosity. Her tone held light mockery. She uncrossed her legs and rose, slow, deliberate. I felt the floor shift beneath me in expectation. She came toward me, graceful, measured. The lamplight brushed across her cheekbones. I felt flustered, unbalanced. The space between us felt charged, Even a breath could spark. She paused when she was just a foot away. I could see the faint pulse at her throat. I felt the faint warmth from her body. My mind shouted caution, hesitation, reason. But another part of me, older, hungrier, leaned in. My gaze flickered to her lips, then away. Her eyes caught me there, and she watched me with slow intention. Her fingertips brushed my shoulder, not enough to demand everything, but just enough to claim context. The contact was fleeting, but enough to send a shiver through me. I inhaled sharply. She pulled back, as though measuring my reaction. "You look like someone expecting trouble," she murmured. She took another step back and sank into a low seat nearby, crossing her legs again. She looked relaxed now, dismissing the tension, waiting. She toyed with the edge of her cardigan, her thumb brushing fabric. I found my voice. "This isn't appropriate." The rational part of me tried to stand firm. But she leaned forward, narrowing the space even though we were already close, her eyes luminous. "Appropriate," she said as though tasting the word. "That's a mask we both wear, isn't it?" She tilted her head, the light catching the curve of her neck. "We've danced around things for too long." She paused, her gaze softening. "I've thought about you." Her words dropped between us, heavy. I felt the weight of her admission. My chest tightened. The indignation I tried to muster melted, replaced by a ragged longing. Impulsively, I closed the distance again. She didn't move away. We were inches apart. I could see the faint tremor in her lashes. The silence pulsed. Her breath, steady, warm, brushed my face. I swallowed. "I've thought about you, too." I hadn't meant to admit it, but I did. The words tasted like both confession and surrender. She let a soft laugh, one that sounded raw and hopeful. Then, a knock on the door. Sharp. The moment shattered. She recoiled slightly, startled. I straightened immediately, posture rigid, eyes darting toward the door. The shadow of a figure passed behind the frosted glass. My pulse throttled. Her eyes locked on mine, the moment crackling. I felt exposed, naked in my longing and my fear. She stood, smoothing her skirt. We both turned to the door. The hallway light flickered, the voice outside unclear. She made no move to hide or run, just stood there with me, heart pounding. She looked back at me, a question in her eyes. I swallowed, and before I could say anything, the door handle turned. The door swung open. It was only security, checking the late-night clearance. I offered a tight, practiced smile. He eyed us, me standing, her in the chair, like it might be improper but shrugged and moved on. The door clicked shut before either of us could relax. The unnatural normalcy of that moment hit me. Someone had intruded into our private storm, but we'd masked it. She exhaled softly, relief and tension mingling in her breath. I shifted, closed the space between us again. The lamp light flickered overhead, casting shadows across her face. She looked at me, eyes wide, raw, a queasy mix of guilt and desire. "Everyone's gone," I said, voice low. "It's just us now." The words landed heavy. She nodded, slow and deliberate, as though absorbing all they meant. She rose and resumed his chair, settling in as though it were her throne. She regarded me with a look I couldn't immediately read. Then she patted the seat beside her in silent invitation. My muscles coiled. I wanted to sit, to kneel, to disappear, but I didn't. I took a breath and perched at the edge of the desk, enough to keep space but still dangerously close. She leaned forward, elbows on knees, gaze unblinking. The air pulsed. She brushed her hair back, tucking a strand behind her ear with a precise gesture. I swallowed, aware of every inch between us. There was war in me, the rational self screaming that this was wrong, but another self, older, more impatient, pressing forward, telling me to stay. She spoke then, low and measured. "Tell me, in your mind, where do you see this going?" Her voice was gentle, but the undercurrent stung. I hesitated, scanning my internal map. Part of me wanted closure, part wanted to plunge deeper. I met her gaze. "In my mind," I said, "I see us acknowledging something. I see us admitting to desires we pretend don't exist." My voice cracked with confession. My heart pounded so loud I feared she heard it. She nodded, her throat moving. "And do you believe there's room for more than what's allowed?" she asked, gaze steady. I leaned forward. "Yes." My words trembled because they meant more than I could yet bear. Her lips curved slightly. She exhaled. Her eyes softened. "So do I," she whispered. Then she stood. Slowly. A tremor passed through her. She took a few steps toward me, closing the gap. I stood in place, as though grounded by the pull of her gravity. With no hesitation left, she reached up and touched my cheek. The contact was electric. My skin hummed. She pressed her forehead to mine, quiet. Our breaths mingled. Her hair drifted across my face, and I smelled her. A mix of lotion, shampoo, something uniquely hers. My hands itched to trace lower, but I kept them still, holding back, tasting the moment. Her lips hovered, a breath away, and then she pulled back just as slowly, stepping away. I exhaled hollow. My pulse roared. She turned, sat back in the chair, folded her legs again like a queen reclaiming her domain. She met me with that calm, knowing gaze. "This is dangerous," she said softly. "But we've both danced close to fire before." She paused. Then, for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. A flicker of guilt or hesitation, something human, vulnerable. She looked away, fingers ringing in her lap. "There's something you don't know," she added, her voice taut. I blinked. "What do you mean?" My pulse spasmed. She took a breath. "I don't always come alone." And with that, she bent her head, chest tight. And I realized, my jealousy, my fear, had awakened. The night held its breath. I stood, heart thudding. She looked up, defiant, fragile. "You deserve to know," she said. And the tension between us tautened again. Her words hung between us. "I don't always come alone." I swallowed violently, my instincts roaring. The possibility of betrayal, of another presence, shattered the spell. My rational self flared. Who? Why? When? But the longing part of me, my aching heart, recoiled and clenched. She met my eyes. "There's someone I see sometimes. Someone who knows more than you think." Her confession felt like a blade. My mind darted. Colleague? Rival? Ex? My knuckles whitened. I walked closer. The distance closed again, tension pulling us tight. "Tell me," I demanded softly, though I feared the answer. She looked down at her lap, silence stretching. She lifted her head, eyes glassy. "His name is Mark." The syllables seemed to echo. My pulse hammered. Mark. The name I knew. The name I feared. The name I had tried so hard to forget. The man she'd been meeting. The man who had once been mine. In stories, in rumor, perhaps in memory. I felt a surge, jealousy, indignation, longing. My voice shook. "Mark?" She nodded, head low. We talk. Sometimes we see each other. I've kept it hidden." She looked at me, pleading. "But tonight, I needed you." I braced myself against the edge of the desk. My fingers dug into the wood. I closed my eyes, recalling every wound, every betrayal. My heart pounded with hurt and curiosity. I felt that old ache swallowing me. "Why?" I whispered. She hesitated. Because with you it feels different. Realer." Her voice was thin. Her eyes glinted with unshed tears. "But Mark is part of the secret I carry. Part of what keeps me from crossing the line." She swallowed. I thought I could manage both. But tonight, she paused, breath caught. I wanted to see which side wins. Her words struck like arrows. I stared at her, mind reeling. Part of me recoiled. Part of me drew closer. I reached out, but she moved away, retreating into the chair's embrace. She pressed her palm to her chest. I swallowed hard. I turned away, pacing a few steps. The soft carpet muted my movement, but my heart thundered. I tried to steady my thoughts. Clearly things were deeper than I knew. Unspoken debts, secrets. I walked back to her, resolved. I crouched by the chair, close enough to touch, but resisting. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. "Do you love him?" I asked, the question raw. She trembled. "I don't know." Her voice broke. "I think I fear I love him. But with you, there's a clarity. A force I've never felt before." She swallowed, tears threatening. "That terrifies me." My chest clenched. I reached forward and brushed her hair away from her face, my hand quivering. Her skin under my fingers felt electric. She didn't flinch. I swallowed and pressed my forehead to hers. The small contact was a confession in itself. We rocked slightly, breath mingling. She whispered, "I want both." The words broke me. She pulled away, abruptly. She stood, pacing. "Mark doesn't bind me. But I've kept him in my orbit, because I thought I could control. But with you, I've lost control." She stopped and turned, facing me, raw. "I need you to decide. Are we a secret? Are we dangerous?" Or do we let this burn everything down? Her question hung in the stale air. My mind rattled, with fear, longing, protective anger. I opened my mouth, to say I would fight for her, to ask forgiveness, to demand boundaries. But before I could speak, she stepped toward me, closed the distance, and pressed her lips to my neck, feather-soft, questioning. The contact seared. My head spun. The room contracted. I felt heat pool in my veins. Her breath, warm against my skin, said more than words. My body responded before my mind. I leaned toward her, but she pulled back, breaking the tension. She looked at me, tears glistening. "I'm scared," she breathed. "Are you?" And just like that, the question became ours both, unanswered, urgent. We stood in the space between confession and collision. The air was thick with unspoken things. I touched my throat, tasting dryness. Her eyes flicked away, then back. The silence pressed in on us. I cleared my throat. "I need to know something," I murmured, voice low. "When you see him, what do you feel that you don't feel with me?" My words felt sharp, dangerous. She hesitated, looking away. I held her gaze, breath shallow. She swallowed. "With him, I feel control. I feel the tug of something forbidden. I feel risk." Her fingers trembled on the lapel of her blouse. "With you, I feel surrender. Loss of control. Truth." She exhaled. "You scare me more." Her confession hit me straight in the chest. I drew closer, carefully. Her pulse fluttered at her neck. The hairs on my arm rose. The moment stretched. I lifted my hand toward her face, but stopped midair, torn between restraint and impulse. She didn't flinch. My fingertip brushed her jaw, warm and alive. She leaned into it. "Tell me you don't regret coming here tonight," I whispered. Her gaze softened. "I don't regret it," she replied. The truth in her voice made my heart crack open. I lowered my head, fingertips smudging along her cheek. Our faces hovered inches apart. The world narrowed to her breath and mine. She closed her eyes, lip trembling. I felt the urge to press my lips to hers, to bridge that space. But I hesitated, pulling back slightly. A memory flickered. Nights we nearly touched, words left unsaid, the fear of ruin. My rational self warned. My heart roared. She opened her eyes and bit her lower lip. The tension vibrated between us. Then she surprised me. She stepped away, to the side, and turned to the window. The city lights bled through the glass. She pressed her palms flat on the ledge, fingers splayed. Her blouse slipped slightly, collar falling open at the shoulder. I watched, mesmerized. The curve of her neck, the line of her shoulder, exposed and vulnerable. My breath caught. I swallowed. "I love you," I blurted. The words battered in the air. Her body stiffened. I hated how raw I felt. She didn't turn. After a long moment, she whispered, "Don't say that tonight." Her voice cracked. I stepped forward, closing the small distance between us. My hand reached for her arm, and then withdrew, trembling. She remained at the ledge, slightly turned away. I swallowed hard, gathering courage. "I would rather say it than not," I said, voice soft but firm. "Even if it destroys everything." She turned slowly. Her eyes glowed. She stepped into me, and we stood chest to chest, breaths mingling, dangerously close. Our world narrowed. My fingers itched to explore her skin, but I kept still. She traced a fingertip down my chest, faint, as though mapping me. Her gaze dropped to my lips, and then back to mine. The tension coiled. She parted her lips, breath trembling. I leaned in, closing the distance. Our lips touched, gently, questioningly. The contact was light, deliberate. Electricity flared. Our bodies adjusted. My arm curled around her waist, tentatively. She leaned in, pressing deeper, our lips brushing. The room spun. Then, abrupt, she pulled back, eyes glossy. "We're playing with fire," she whispered. She stepped away, small distance restored. "I can't promise control." She patted her skirt, smoothing fabric over trembling legs. Then she turned, walked toward the door. I stood frozen. She paused at the frame, glancing back at me. "Don't follow me." With that, she slipped past and disappeared into the hallway, leaving me trembling with longing and dread. For a moment I stood there, numb. The door remained open. The hallway beyond was dark. My pulse thundered. I wanted to run after her, hold her, beg her to stay. But I stayed. I let the door close. The lock clicked. Silence swallowed me. And I realized then, nothing would ever be the same. She was gone, but her absence reverberated. The office felt hollow and haunted. I sat at his desk, the one she had perched at, fingers tracing the grain of the wood. My thoughts tangled. Mark. Her desire. My fear. My love. The line between them blurred. I replayed every flick, every glance, every brush. What did "I can't promise" control really mean? Was I being foolish to believe we could survive this secret passion? What line would she cross next? Hours passed. The building emptied. Night deepened. I found myself still there, waiting. I paced, replayed the moment she lingered by the window, the way her blouse bared her collarbone. I closed my eyes and saw her lips parted, breath trembling. My heart ached. Eventually, she returned. Quiet, footsteps soft in the corridor. She reappeared in the doorway. My body jolted. She looked exhausted, fragile. Her hair was loose, falling around her shoulders like a curtain. She looked at me, something raw and vulnerable showing through the usual composure. I stood, swallowed. She crossed the floor slowly. When she reached me, she paused, trembling. I wanted to reach for her, but hesitated, fear that she might shy away. She dragged in a breath. "I couldn't leave it like that," she whispered. I exhaled without knowing I'd held my breath. She pressed a hand to my chest, feeling the rapid beat beneath my shirt. Her fingertips curled slightly. "I hate that you're jealous," she said. "I hate that I made you feel this." Her voice cracked. "Don't hate it," I panted. "Don't hate me for feeling." My chest heaved. She nodded, tears glinting. Her lips quivered. She reached up and caught my gaze, eyes glistening. Don't leave me wondering," she whispered. "Tell me you'll stay, though the cost is high." She turned abruptly, pacing across the room, tears in her eyes. I followed her, tracking her shadow. She stopped near the window, back to me. I closed the space and slid behind her, hands resting lightly on her arms. She didn't flinch. I felt her shoulders tense. "Please," I murmured, voice trembling. "Stay with me tonight." She exhaled, body melting into my hands. I wrapped my arms around her waist. Her head rested against my chest. We stood there, still, as though the world had folded inward. The city lights flickered outside. I closed my eyes and pressed my cheek to her hair, breathing her in. We stayed silent, suspended between fear and desire, longing and regret. Then she murmured into my shirt, "I've never wanted someone like this." My heart twisted. I tightened my arms. She clung to me as though I were an anchor. Her tears dampened my shirt. I held her more firmly, desperate. A sudden knock on the door jolted us apart. We broke. Her head snapped up, my arms falling away. She straightened, brushing hair behind her ears. I cleared my throat, trying to steady my racing heart. The door opened. A cleaning staff member stuck her head in, apologized, turned, and left. The intrusion snapped us back to rigid reality. She exhaled. She turned to face me, composure cracking. "We can't stay like this," she said, voice low. "We have to decide tonight." Her eyes glowed with fierce vulnerability. The air pulsed. I nodded, throat tight. "Tonight," I echoed. She stepped close, pressing her palms to my chest. Our breaths tangled. I looked down at her lips, close enough to taste. She closed her eyes momentarily, as though mustering courage. I leaned in, brushing my lips over hers, soft, questioning. She responded, pressing closer, and the kiss deepened in slow, trembling agreement. Fire lit in me. I wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. Her other hand drifted up my neck. We stood in that room, shadows and light, our hearts war and surrender. The forbidden tightened around us. We were bound, whether by fate or mistake. The kiss ended too soon, brief, but devastating. We held each other's gaze, breath ragged. She nodded, faint. "Now," she said. I swallowed. "Now," I repeated. And we stepped forward, past hesitation, past fear, toward whatever this was meant to be. The cliff of the unknown gleamed before us. We moved together with slow, deliberate steps. The air crackled. She guided me to the window seat, the city lights shimmering behind us. The room became our cocoon. My limbs trembled. Her heart pounded. Neither of us spoke. Every unspoken word filled the silence. She sat and beckoned me, a soft curl of her finger. I knelt before her, hands braced on the cushion. She placed a hand over mine. Our eyes met. The tension stretched tight. I felt everything, desire, fear, protectiveness, collide in my veins. She leaned forward, tracing a path across my palm, fingers soft and sure. She smiled, small, wistful. I've imagined this, she whispered. But never like this. She tucked her hair behind her ear, glancing down. My pulse raced. I swallowed. I brushed my thumb over her knuckles, lingering. The contact was weighty. She inhaled, a faint hitch of breath. I rose and stood before her, framing her face with my hands. She gazed up at me. The moment trembled, poised between confession and collision. I bent, pressing my lips to her forehead, then to her closed eyelids. My breath warmed her skin. She sighed, leaning into me. I lifted her, guiding her sideways such that she reclined, and I hovered over her, careful, deliberate. Her blouse slipped open slightly at the neckline. Shadows played across her collarbone. My gaze traced the lines, worshipful, reverent. She raised her hand, pushing a strand of hair off her neck. I leaned down, brushing my lips along the line of her neck, light as a whisper. She shivered, head tilting back. Her fingers curled in the sheet. I paused, hovering, letting the moment stretch, letting her feel safe, desired, chosen. The weight of intimacy settled between us. I pressed a kiss just below her ear, then withdrew, waiting for permission with every fiber of my being. Her breath came in short, trembling waves. She nodded, eyes soft and luminous. I bent lower, lips brushing her collarbone, breath warming her skin. My hands stayed careful, gentle, exploring the curve of her shoulders, the sweep of her ribs. She exhaled, arching slightly toward me, drawing me closer. We moved in tandem, electricity weaving between us. There were no words, only sensation, longing, the slow surrender. Time folded, everything else blurred. She whispered, "Stay with me," voice raw. I pressed my lips to hers, slow and deep, letting the kiss become both question and answer. Her fingers wound into my hair, pulling me closer. We fit together like puzzle pieces long separated. And then we paused. The air trembled. I looked into her eyes, heart blazing. She held me, fragile and bold at once. "I'm yours tonight," she whispered. My chest thundered. I nodded. "Always," I murmured, though the word felt too small for what I felt. We settled between sheets, held each other, letting our bodies speak. We whispered fragments, promises, fears, claims. The world outside ceased to exist. In that darkness, we touched, we trembled, we surrendered, not fully, but enough that nothing thereafter could be the same. We lay afterward, skin to skin, breath slowing. I traced her spine with my fingers. Her head rested on my chest. I felt the rise and fall of her breathing, fragile, content. Silence wrapped around us. The night held its breath. Then she tilted her head, voice soft. "What will we do tomorrow?" My heart stalled. I tightened my arms around her and whispered, "Whatever it takes." Her hair tickled my chin. She murmured, "Thank you." And in her eyes I saw gratitude, guilt, longing, and love. We closed our eyes, suspended between the dawn of what we'd done and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Morning light crept through the blinds, painting stripes across our entwined bodies. For a moment I held her, savoring the fragile quiet, the hush after the storm. We were bruised, tender, alive. My heart still thundered in my chest. She stirred, blinked awake, seeing me first. A faint smile. We lay there, limbs tangled, breath mingled. The world beyond the room felt distant, as if we were suspended in a bubble of what we now shared. I ran a hand through her hair. Her skin under my fingers was soft and warm. She shifted, turned toward me, propping an elbow, studying my face. Her gaze was calm, intense, reflective. "I didn't expect this clarity," she said, voice hoarse. "I came thinking I might regret it." I brushed her lips with my thumb. "Neither did I admitted. But I don't regret us." The words felt sacred. She nodded. "We'll need to navigate this," she said. "Mark." She trailed off. I held her gaze. "We'll do whatever we must," I reassured her. "But I'm not letting you fade back into the shadows." My eyes stung. "You deserve more." She closed her eyes and leaned into me. "Thank you for saying that," she whispered. She opened her eyes and met mine again. I saw something like hope and fear and resolve. We spent the morning talking in hushed tones. Boundaries, expectations, her meetings with Mark, how much she was willing to risk. She apologized, confessed guilt, but I held her, letting her know she didn't need to carry shame alone. Then we dressed. The world outside waited. We stepped into the corridor, side by side. The building felt different, familiar, but fraught. As we passed the reception, I gestured for her to stay behind the desk. She smiled wryly, sliding into his chair once more. That gesture, familiar, dangerous, struck me anew. I stood beside her. She crossed a leg, graceful. She looked at me. In her eyes I saw all the tension we shared, all the promises unspoken. My chest tightened. I swallowed. She held out a hand. I took it. She smoothed the fabric of her skirt, sat tall. "Let's face today," she said. Her voice was steady. I nodded. We walked out of the building together, stepping into the light. She clasped my hand in the hallway. Our shoulders touched. I squeezed her hand. The world felt both impossibly large and utterly intimate. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Maybe heartbreak, maybe triumph, maybe ruin. But I know this. I love her. I choose her. I'm ready to fight for this. And I believe she's ready too. Thanks for letting me share this. If you've ever been caught in a secret you can't reconcile, a desire you can't contain, you're not alone. Leave a comment. Tell me your story. Let's heal together. And if you want more, hit subscribe. There's more to come.